Hello and welcome everyone. Give me 1 second while I make a couple of adjustments here as we get started. As you can probably tell, I still have that little bit of the remnants of that cold that I've got here, so I apologize about that. Welcome to DevChatter, everyone. Hopefully you are having a fantastic Tuesday. Even with this, I still am as well, and I am looking forward to some coding today. I see a couple of people saying hi in chat already. So S&B, Hannibal, welcome, hello. Hopefully everybody is having a good day, whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening in your time zone. I know that we get a number of people from the US, Europe, and all around the world here, so hopefully everybody is ready for some coding. So for anyone who doesn't know, right down there below my name, below me is my name. I am Brendan, and this channel here is DevChatter. And on this channel, we like to do live coding discussions. We do pull requests from people that send them to us. Sometimes I review those off stream, sometimes I review them on stream. It just depends on whether I think it's something that is going to be fun to work through together, or whether it's, just tedious stuff that I don't think we're going to want to get into. Today, we are going to be working on one of our previous projects, unless you guys in the next handful of minutes convince me to do something else. We are going to be working on our GameTracker application. And our GameTracker is an ASP.NET Core application that is designed to be a data entry application, data entry style application, for people to be able to record games that they and their friends play. So if you and your group of friends play a number of, say, board games together, you might want to record what games you guys played when you played them, who was in the game, who won the game, who taught the game, and those kinds of things, so that you can, track it, maybe pull cool stats and be like, oh yeah, Steve's great at games, but he only wins when he's the one that taught it, or, other things like that you can do, just to get yourself fun information, because why not? So that's the idea of the application that we are building. As I mentioned, it's in C# and ASP.NET Core. We have done a little bit of work on it. For now, it is running what is called Razor Pages, which is the current ASP.NET Core way of doing pages. Now, we have discussed using Vue.js, although I am no expert on Vue.js, so we may integrate that for the actual data entry page itself, so that we can do nice things like, Bill came over. Bill's not usually in our group, and so I need to really quickly add Bill to our system so that we can start tracking Bill, and so we add Bill. Or we pull in a new game, and I want to make sure that we add that new game to our data, and maybe we automatically call out to an external website. There's a website about board gaming called Board Game Geek, and we might call out to that to be able to actually get our information. So these are separate pieces that it'd be really nice if, there were good data entry systems to grab this data. So, thank you, C# Fritz, for the auto host. So if I just started talking to you, hello, my name is Brendan. Welcome everybody who is here. This is DevChatter, and we build fun programs together here. We like to discuss coding, programming, and that sort of thing. Noticed a few other people showed up. Steep Left, hello. Mage, Goldweavers, Kevin, hello everybody. Welcome. Greetings. Hopefully everybody is enjoying their day. The couple of things I do want to mention before we dive into that code, because we are going to jump into that code. On Thursday, so that's 2 days from now, we are going to do another pair programming stream. We're going to have Chris Woodruff on the channel with us, so he's going to be up in that corner over there, and he and I are going to be, we might actually do more GameTracker. I haven't decided yet. So he wants to work on something web-based, so that might actually be what we do. So very likely we're either going to be doing GameTracker or the chatbot, one or the other. We've talked about what we want to focus on, or I should say what he wants to program with us on, and I think we can get a good a good sample for him to work with us on in either one of these applications. So that's probably the approach we're going to take. Goldweavers, you are wondering why we use C# for developing code. And I like Mage's response of why not. So the short answer is when choosing a programming language, you want to use one that is designed for the type of program that you are building. Now, C# is a fairly general purpose programming language that's designed for application development. As we are building applications, and specifically web applications, C# is actually a very good language for this. So that is part of the reason why we are using C#. Another reason why I like it is that it is a fairly well-known language. So there are a lot of people who could maintain an application that is written in C#. It is also one that is a C-based language, so it comes with a few other added benefits as well. Anyone who knows Java, C#, C++, or C will feel fairly comfortable reading code written in C#. So there are a lot of nice benefits to that, in that there is a significant portion of the programming industry as a whole that understands C#. So even if they're not experts in it, they're going to be able to look at and read the code. So that gets you a lot of other nice benefits. One of the other things I like about it is that C# is well maintained. So by that I mean not just that it's getting patches and other things like that, but there is a team of people that really care about C# and are very thoughtfully making changes to the language. There is knowing that though, I will say that there is a controversial feature coming this probably later this year to C# in C# version 8. It's a controversial feature that I feel like if you use it for the purpose they intended it for, it's going to be a valuable feature. If you use it for anything else, I think it's going to be a dangerous feature. So that's why it sits in that gray area. But everything else they're putting in C# 8 is fantastic. And if you do pay attention to language development, C# is actually one of the languages that is a more mature language that has made a lot of strides in the direction that a lot of developers want to go. So that's why C#. Okay, so now that we've got that, I should mention our bot. I am going to move this out of the way. This is our bot. By the way, all of the code that we do here on stream is out on GitHub, and even the bot that's in chat is the one we work on here on the stream. So if you want to check it out, it is over there. Now let's go ahead and open up GameTracker, and I did change things, so we're going to let it reload. You're correct, Visual Studio. I made some changes. That's alright. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start a rebuild, because we always like to do that here. And you're welcome, Goldweavers. I'm glad to have answered the question. It is a very good question, because I mean, it's a simple question, but like, why choose a language? So, and Zultralord, hey, welcome. Okay, so our program builds. Let's go ahead and give it a quick run here, and we'll see what the state of it is. That's yeesh. Something's messed up with the styling now. We'll get to that later. Anyway, let's make a couple of adjustments real fast, just because I'm noticing them here, and they take only a few seconds. So for anyone who hasn't seen Razor Pages, you're about to find out a little bit about how they work. So the Pages section's where all of our like viewable content is, if you're using just Razor Pages. And I want to go into Shared and Layout. And the reason I want to be in here is this is actually the layout that's used on all my pages if I specified they would have a layout. I want to adjust the footer real quickly. At some point I'm going to switch this to be so that year is automatically calculated, so programmatically displayed, I should say. But right here I want to make this a copy 2018 DevChatter. We'll set that to for now. And then the other thing I want to change is on our title we've got DevChatter GameTracker, which I am going to put a space in there instead of a dot. And then the next thing I want to do is jump over to, actually was the navigation here? Navigation is in here as well. So notice here in the branding, if you're looking at this page, sorry I'm going a little bit fast here because I don't want to spend a lot of time just messing around with HTML markup. That's less fun. This right here, which is where a logo would go, that's really big. So we'll switch that to a logo at some point. It's not hard to do, but for now I'm just going to put in GameTracker as the name. So now when I refresh this page, we have GameTracker up here. Our copyright's been adjusted, and this as well. You'll notice the title I changed. It's kind of hard to see because it's kind of small there, but that's a space instead of a dot. So there we go. Adjustments made. So there is our layout tweaks, and before we get started we are going to get ourselves onto a branch because we don't want to be on the master branch. So I'm going to open up GitHub Desktop here and get us on a new branch, and I'm also going to try to slow down just a hair. So I don't want to make a branch just for that layout change there. So yes, Steeplift, this is GitHub Desktop. And Magnum, welcome. Okay, so I don't know what to call this one yet, so we're going to call this July 31. And I will rename later. So the nice thing about, for anyone who doesn't know Git that well, the way that I usually describe branching in Git, for anybody who doesn't know, is you can think of a branch as a pointer to a spot on your tree. And that pointer that I've got there is named Benrick/July 31st. If I want to make a new pointer to the same value, that's really easy, and that's how I would rename if I needed to. Additionally, if I merge in, other things like that, you got to remember that those names are just pointers to a specific change. So at some point, I will definitely do a stream where we talk a lot about Git. So don't worry about that. Tweaking the, changing the DevChatter branding on the layout. There we go. Nice commit message, and it is in there in our history on this branch. Okay. And S&B, thank you for answering that question. Yes, we are going to be working on the GameTracker. Zultralord, I did not see the Git issue you opened today. Which project was it on? And I will take a look at some point. Okay, so in order to get started, I want to talk about what's here. So right now, what we've got is a handful of pretty simple things. So there is a home page, currently blank. I removed everything from the home page because this originally had all the default ASP.NET stuff, didn't want that in here, so we just deleted that. We have the About page, which we want to keep an About page because I think it's useful to have one because you might want links to something that don't belong anywhere else, and we can put them on the About page. Right now ours obviously isn't filled out. The Contact page, this again is the default. I'm probably going to get rid of this, but we'll find out. There might be some reason to keep it. The next page that we've got here is the game list. So this is a standard scaffolded page that does CRUD operations. So in Razor Pages, you can tell it that you just want to create a standard CRUD setup. And it will get you a nice list page like this that has a Create New button, Edit Details, and Delete for each record. So I could look at the details of Munchkin, which right now just has a title, and there should have been a BGG link. I'm surprised that's not displaying on these pages. And it's not on the edit either. So this must have been, we must have put this in after the fact. I will look at how we did this, because I don't remember exactly how we set that up. Zultralord, I will take a look at it. It's not one that's super important yet, is it? And hello, Little Fire Studio. Okay, so we'll take a look at the games in a second. Our players right now, looks like we just have me in there. But let's add another player. We are going to add... who's a good candidate to play games with? Abraham Lincoln. I heard, I read a quote that he had on the internet about how good he is at playing board games, so we'll put him in there. Alright, sounds good, Zultralord. Alright, and so now we have 2 players. Let's get a couple more. Who's another good candidate? What is it? Will Wheaton. I think he plays board games. I probably spelled his name wrong. And what? We've had James Chambers on the show more than anyone else, so we'll add him to the list. So now we've got 4 people in our list of gamers that we could potentially use. I think that's a good start. Now the last page that I want to look at here is the game record page. The game record page, it looks like we have some hacked in data that we put in here, because we were messing around with using Vue.js for this. And this is just a set of names that I think we put in JavaScript instead of pulling from the web server. No problem. We will wire that together either way. Okay, so then the idea was we had checkboxes, we'd click record game. That's basically how it looks like we were setting this up. Okay, I've got a pretty good idea of where this program was and what it was doing. Hopefully you all also got a pretty good idea of what we have here. So I'm not going to worry about games more than the name just now, so I think that is enough. I think we want to focus on the game record. And the game record in this case is the one that I think is going to matter. Oh, and we started making game reviews, didn't we? Didn't we? You know what? I'm going to add the link to that, because that should have been on the page. Give me 1 second, everyone. We're going to go add that. So we're going to go back to Pages and Shared and Layout. And next to Game Record, we are going to make reviews. Game reviews. Okay. Now one thing I do want to point out, because it's a little bit weird, so everyone is probably not used to it yet, so if you haven't seen it, this is a standard anchor tag, but it has this piece right here. So this says, make this an anchor to an ASP page, and ASP page in this case means an ASP.NET Core Razor page, and this is the name of said page. So you'll notice the structure from here. If this is the root, then index is this one, about is this one, contact this one, and down here we get to games/index. That means inside this folder an index. Now what's nice about this is it's not actually yes, exactly, Katrina. We're using Razor tags for it. So these are our little tag helpers here, and this is actually what defines it. So this is the cool thing about how Razor pages work, is that you, instead of having a bunch of C# markup, they instead have these ASP prefixed little helpers that you put on the HTML. So it's actually pretty nice. I forget if there are any others. Ah, yes, here they are. So ASP fallback href, for example. So if it can't get to this, it will fall back to this one. So they've got other attributes as well that are quite nice. ASP append version true, so just different things like this that are little helpers that you can use. There are a whole bunch of them. You can check out the documentation to see all of them, obviously. Okay, so now that I've made that change, we should be able to refresh this page, and then there's reviews. So right here, we have this new concept called a game review. And before I do anything with this, I want to find out if we have the migration in place that makes this possible. Looks like we have game reviews migration, so that tells me that this is probably wired up. So I should be able to create a new game rating. So it knows it's a number, so this was automatically scaffolded for us. We didn't build this. So it's a number, we get a little up-down box, and we get a text box for our review. I'm going to nice this up first, because I want to make sure that we are prepared for when we bring on a guest that I have been talking about to you guys for like 4 months now. I've been trying to bring this guy on as a guest. Once I end up getting GameTracker to the point where I'm ready to bring him on, I will bring him on. We're going to do a machine learning stream with Guy Royce. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, until that point, though, we need to get this program going. So, that's one of the problems with leaving this one on the back burner for a while. Okay, so taking a look at the game reviews. When we load this, this is the data that it set up for us. So it's just going to do a basic table display, because again, it is tabular data, so we really do want a table in this case. And we're going to display the results of this information, so rating, text, and that's what's going to display. I'm betting that when we display this, we aren't going to want to display all the text, but we'll see about that. Okay. I want to take a look at what model we used for this. Okay, so here's the first interesting thing that I want to talk about. When we display a game review, let's say that we gave a game a review of 4. We're going to need to choose which game it's associated with, which I'm surprised this didn't show up. Is that not on the object? Game, rating, text. It is on the object, so this didn't come in for some reason, so it didn't know how to wire this one up for us. So we're going to have to do that one ourselves. But here's my concern. When we are on the list page, if we have a large block of text, I think that is not going to display nicely here. So we'll want to fix that up a little bit. And I'm also noticing that it did not bring in game at all. So we're going to want to adjust it so that it brings in game. So, how do we do that nicely? A 5-star rating control would be nice in the review. Yes, S&B. I was thinking the exact same thing. So Zultralord, you are correct. I am planning on doing a view model for that page, because I think it's going to be a little nicer. Now, remember that the game reviews are going to come in from a user. So it's not always going to be an admin, it's not always going to be us. So this brings up another discussion. We had an application security stream last week, which if you didn't see that, you should check it out. It's in our videos section here. And one of the things that is a bad practice, now I'm going to admit we're doing this bad practice right now, but we're going to fix it. We're getting rid of it. That's one of our next steps, hence why I'm bringing it up. One of those bad practices is using your model objects directly in your interaction layer. Now, by interaction layer, what I'm talking about in this case is our Razor pages. So our Razor pages, or your controllers, or something like that, the reason you use a view model, there's a lot of them. One of them actually is security. Now, rating here is an int. I could obviously put, a requirement that it's between this and this value and other things like that. And that has a lot of value. It's really, really useful to put on your models any requirements on restricting what is valid for that object. Super useful. I do want to do that on the model. More important is making sure that the model you give to your words. The model that you give to the user that's running your website for them to send up to you and for them to receive needs to be limited to what they are allowed to see and control. Now, what I mean by that is that something might be valid, but not necessarily valid for that person to alter. For example, it doesn't matter much on a game review because a review isn't a big deal, really. But maybe on the game review, I want to have, in addition to the game rating, the text, and the game itself, we want to have who the person is that did it. So something we need to add to our game review is the person. The problem with having this on this model object is any valid username is valid for this model object. What's not valid is if I send you a username. Now you might tell me, oh yeah, but I don't put that in as a field. And it's like, okay, yeah. So let's say that you don't put that in, but let's say you're still binding to it. I can send you this value. Now if you think in your controller, okay, yeah, well then I set it immediately. And it's like, okay, yes, if you set it immediately, you are safe. But now you're under the requirement that every single place that you received that, you need to immediately set the value over that. And if you forget in even one place, you're caught. And so the reason why I suggest using these model objects is if you only expect certain data to be received from, your user on your site, that's all the data that you should actually, accept. That's all your model object should account for. So you're modeling your interaction with the user is the idea. So we call it a view model, but it's almost like an interaction model because it's what we're going to send down to them. And this same principle applies whether you're just doing a view model for a view like this, or whether you're using a DTO object or something like that that's passed through a web API. If we have some complex object, then we must wire it up manually. Scaffolding will not work for them. Yeah, Steeplef. So my plan is to just tweak what it gave us to our view model object that we're going to create. This has to do with middleware, doesn't it? So Zultralord, you could use middleware to do that if you wanted to. So the request pipeline lifecycle. Yes, you could create a middleware layer that looked to see if your object were ever a type that had a username or something like that on it, and then you could attempt to protect it. So a lot of times what I like to create is a special type of authorized attribute for that kind of thing. So it's whether they have access to the specific data that they're trying to modify. I do like doing that as a middle layer approach, but even in that case, I still recommend using a view model object, and the view model object is what is getting validated, that they were allowed to do what they did on the view model object. Because let's say that we allow an admin, for example, to modify the data of someone else. We still want to make sure that those types of things are accounted for. There are a lot of systems where a user is allowed access to more than one account, and that's what we want to focus on. So the first thing I want to do is do a little bit of cleanup on this game reviews code. So let's make some changes. Did we already create a repository in this project? I think we did. So anyone who is wondering about our repository pattern and how we build it, there is a simpler one in this project than in our in our chatbot. So if you're one of the regulars here and you want to get a good look at one, especially in the beginning stages, this one actually is a simpler way of looking at that. I also had realized while we were looking at this that the game review is missing our user. And I put username here, but I'm not 100% that that's what we want to do. I need to think about this one, how we're going to tie to which user it is. And welcome, person with a really awesome name. Thanks for following. Okay. So we need to get that on there. But for now, let's go ahead and create our view model object. So game record view model, game view model. Let's create a class for game review view model. We'll start there. That name's likely to change. Because we might make more than one, but we'll see what we end up with there. GDPR. What about GDPR? Game reviews. Oh yeah, GDPR. It's very difficult for devs, I agree. Especially for smaller devs like us. So game review. So reviewer name. Rating. Review text. Game title. And review ID. We'll just make it ID. Okay. So this is almost like our read-only one. So this is a value that I don't want to be settable by them. So this is not a create or an edit necessarily. These are. So this is one of those instances where this is a value that could get modified by someone. So this is where where we do want that security and we check it. But what we don't want is to have to do it everywhere. So for example, the ID should be available on the create and the read, or on the update and the read, but it should not be on a create, for example. Shouldn't even be on the model, because it's not going to get used. So anytime you've got a case where the value is not even going to be used, there's never an instance where you need it, don't put it on your model. Don't even have it on there. So, do you recommend those online coding courses, like you pay some amount to get a certificate? You know, to be honest, Mage, I actually don't know on that one. I have never taken one of those courses, so I would not be able to speak to how valuable those ones are. In terms of getting a certificate, if I were recruiting someone, that wouldn't, you know, raise or lower their chances as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so we have this basic view model that has this data on it. This is what we would want to display on that index page. So this is what we're going to use on the index page. Okay, so what I changed here is pretty simple. I removed... wait, I can't get rid of that? Really? Okay, there we go. I changed the type of our model object that we're using. This is what we're binding to our page here. I changed the collection of game reviews, we're going to make that plural, to game review view model. And then this needs to change as well. Now the question I have is, do we have access to automapper already? I don't think we do, so we're going to look for automapper on NuGet if we can find it. I was hoping it would just bring it to us there using that, but we'll go get it the hard way. So I like automapper for this kind of work because converting from one type of object to another is a pretty simple operation, but I like it if it's automated. And automapper is usually pretty good about this. So we are going to manage the NuGet packages on this, and I am going to look for automapper. Yes, Katrina, automapper is, there we go. So Jimmy Bogart's a good guy. I've known him for years, and he makes automapper. He makes a couple of other things too. He's a very smart guy, works on some very helpful open source projects, although he has some very strong opinions about code. We don't always see eye to eye, but you'll find that among all developers. None of us agree exactly on how to do things, which is why a lot of times you'll hear me preface what the advice that I give by saying things like, this has worked well for me. And I like to say things that way because I don't believe in the concept of a best practice. There are practices that work well and practices that don't, and every path you choose has benefits and drawbacks. So, let me just make sure. We're going to go grab automapper 7, getting started. Because I have not messed with automapper 7, and I want to make sure he didn't change how things work. Once you've created... So, yes, I thought he had an automatic setup for this. Mapper configuration. Static instance API. Okay, so we could define all the individual ones. I thought he had a way to just tell it that you wanted to just do everything by convention. Let me try this. Automapper, mapper. Map, and that is from source to T destination. So my destination type in this case is game review view model, and the object we're taking in is a game review. No, that's not how we're going to do it. I'm just making sure that that wires up. Yes, automapper saves a ton of time. So in theory, that might work. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We have this as a list, so I want to take the list and convert it into a list of a new type. So what we do in order to get there is we say game reviews.select, And then once we select it, this is effectively a way of, so think of select as grabbing a, you can use this to pull properties off of things. That's usually where you see it. So you might say like x dot, the common scenario might be that you'd pull all the games off of it, and this would be the way that you would get a list of all the games that are on there. That's the common approach that you see when you're using a link select, but we're going to do it a little bit differently. So in theory, this could actually return any type we want. So what we're going to do is mapper.map this, and instead of game reviews first like we're doing up here, we are actually just going to say X, because in this case X is each one of our game reviews. So I don't know how well you can see that. The little display there is kind of small, but the type of that is a game review, because we're selecting each one of these and we're going to do this to it, and the result of this call in here is a game record view model as we defined there. So what we're going to get back is an IEnumerable of those. So it looks like this when you do it. Now that's kind of ugly. I don't like the IEnumerable of that, so I want to list it, since we're about to deal with it anyway, and I'm not worried about the memory. I'm expecting this to be a fairly small collection when we do it for now anyway, so not too worried about performance. That's something we can clean up later if it ends up being a problem. Oh, and it's letting me know that I could actually just call it like this. So I'm not going to do this, but I want to show you this. Okay. So ReSharper was actually pointing out to me that I could use a method group. And so the idea here is inside of a link statement, what it is actually asking me for is it wants, let me show you right there. It wants a function that accepts, so I don't know how well you guys can read that, function that accepts a game review and returns a game record view model. So that's actually what it says there. Now, for that function, this is the definition of a function that does exactly that. And so I can actually just put essentially the function name. And that's why this is called a method group. So this is just the method. Alternately, you could do what we did a moment ago and actually put in a lambda that does the same thing. So in this case, this lambda accepts this value and then calls this. But since our method took the exact same parameter that our lambda did, it's telling us, oh, you can actually just use the method. Now, I'm not actually going to do it this way because this is harder for most people to read. I think more developers are going to be able to see this and understand what the code's doing. But I do want to point out what that is and why it suggested that. Okay, so now that I've got that, I want to change the value that we assign here. And I'm actually confused why it's not okay with that. List of a game review view model. Oh, because I didn't add the S. You gotta love when that's the problem there. And this can't convert from list to iList. iList and explicit conversions. List of system collections list. Game record view model. How are those not the same type? I'm not going crazy, am I? Anybody watching there? Oh! Yep. Burnt. That was dumb. It happens. Okay. Game review view model, not game record view model, so just looked very similar. You feel like Java since version 8 is far more rich in data structures than C#. Steeplift, you think? It's interesting. So I would my usual stance on that one would be that around 2005 is when C# reached about the same level as Java, probably around 2005, and then I feel like the next decade was just C#, surpassing it. But maybe I'm wrong. To be honest, I don't know it that well, but I know it recently added lambdas and other things like that. What I tend to find is Java keeps adding all the features that C# added, a few years before it did. So maybe it has caught up again. Okay, so we now have these view model objects. We pull these out of the data. We do a conversion over to that. I haven't actually checked to see if this works yet. Obviously, it's not going to display because we haven't adjusted the view, but we will get to that when I jump over here. You'll notice it's got red squiggly lines, and that's one of the neat things, is it can tell that there's a problem in this page because it's trying to compile the Razor page here and finding errors. So it's actually really cool that our Razor page is able to let us know about these. Okay, so we have rating, and what did I say? Review text. Review text. There we go. Is that the only change I had to make? Okay. So in theory, that one might work. Let's take a look and see if that little change was effective or not. We might get an error about the automapper. I don't know. We had no data. Right. We don't have the data yet. So let's go ahead and make this work by doing this. So I'm going to go ahead and say hack, and then just do add new game review, and I'm just going to hard code one in here real fast. So the game will be, game won't matter. Let's do text, hacked in here, and then rating equals 1337. There we go. Because, hackers, elite hackers, hacked that in there. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and run this again. Take a look at the site. Go over to the reviews. Boom! There we go. Okay. So, mapper not initialized, call initialized with appropriate configuration. Through a container or otherwise. Make sure you don't have any calls with the static mapper.map methods, and if you're using project 2, use as okay, so right now we're just calling the static mapper. We're not doing anything fancy with that, and to be honest, I tend not to be too worried about the mapper getting involved in our unit tests. It tends to still work pretty well. I haven't run into problems with that, but what you end up having to do is at the beginning of your unit test session, you do need it to initialize if you are going to take that approach. But that's something that we'll get to when we get there. For now, in order to make sure that we can call mapper.map, we need to initialize our mapper inside of the startup. So we're going to put it in here. And this is primarily the ASP.NET startup that we've got here, and mapper.initialize, and it really does want us to create these maps. Mapper, initialize, add profile, create map, destination. So we could go either way, and the initialize is the same, so I won't worry about that. I'm going to put it in configure for now, since we're not currently doing an instance. I figured I'd, whoops, use auto, okay. I just wanted to see if there was an extension. Well, actually, would it find it? I'm not sure there would. Mapper, initialize. I'm not going to add a profile right now because we don't have one set up. Create missing type maps. There we go. I think that's the one we need. I knew it existed somewhere. I think this is the one we need. Let's do a quick Google on this. So that's a true in the options. Set it up in the configuration, and then it should work. Okay, cool. Yep, awesome. That is what I wanted to do. So the idea here is that automapper will now automatically say, oh, you didn't have one defined for that type? Okay, I'll just do it automatically. So what that means is, if we run into a scenario where we need the mapping to work a specific way, we can define the mapping that we need and make sure everything lines up. If we think it's going to work automatically, we can just use the missing type map. So that's actually what this gets us. So now that that's running, I'm going to go ahead and run the site again. It should restart. There we go. No error this time. Oh, there's the error. Okay. Okay, so automapper created the type map for you, but the type's kind of using the current configuration because it doesn't know what to do with the review name and review text. Okay, so it does actually want us to define this. CFG create map, and I believe it was source destination, so it is game review and game review view model. Okay, so this is the configuration that we want to do. Ignore all source properties with an inaccessible setter. No. For member. X dot review text. What is it? For member map. No, it's for this. Do something. Map from, there it is. Text. There we go. Okay, got it. I guess the names in the model and the view model need to be the same for the auto mapping. S&V, to some extent, yes. So automapper will find a lot of those types of adjustments for you, and if it can intuit it, it will do it automatically. So if I made them both be text or review text, it would figure it out. I thought in this case it would get it, but I think what I would have needed to do is do game review text, and it would have figured it out. Just not 100% on that. Let's see. Oh, hey Greendolf, welcome. CPLF, yes, because mappers use the concept of reflection. Yeah, so if they have the exact same models, those ones map automatically. And then, so review text and review name. Review name is not on there yet. And I actually think I want to do reviewer name. And that's not on our model at all. So hang on, I want to look for our create identity schema. Spin out roles. I want to find where our identity code got to. Identity pages. No. Identity DB context. So let's take a look over here real quickly. I want to see if I can find it. So we're gonna try this. User, identity user login, users, DB set of identity users. So identity user is the one that we've got. So let's jump back over here to our game review model object. Identity user. See if I can't get that on there. Okay, so here's the challenge that I'm hoping you all notice right here. So in order to get access to the identity user, I'm going to have to include ASP.NET Core identity in order to get it. That creates a slight problem. The problem is this. The identity user object is a C# class that is included as part of the Microsoft Extensions Identity Stores NuGet package. So what I want to do is see if I can't get that without any of the rest of the dependencies, because I don't really want a lot of ASP.NET dependencies getting pulled into my core project. So I'm leaning towards right now letting identity user bleed in a little rather than wrapping that and changing the type. I say that only because I don't I have not been using the identity part of ASP.NET Core long enough to know how we would want to essentially wrap that away and hide it from the rest of our code. So since I don't know that yet, I'm not going to hide it just yet. Ah, looks like I've searched for it before. Okay. So we're going to install that here. So in theory, this giant NuGet package we're including is going to get us just the class that we need in order to store data related to this. Ugh. Do not like. Hang on. Let me take a look at this. We may not have all the right versions just yet. Yep, it wants to consolidate core app between these two. Why is it saying if core doesn't have it? Microsoft ASP.NET Core App. I think I know the problem that we're running into. I'm going to do this. I'm going to update our class library to be a .NET Core class library. So far we've been a net standard one, and I'm hoping that will help us pin this down, because it seemed to become a problem when we added this. So I want to take a look at each of these project files. Net Core App 2.1. This used this project. It's the same one. They made the exact same reference. How can it possibly be complaining then? Try removing the version. Mr. Whittle, I am using ReSharper. So that is one of the tools I'm using that does the automatic code analysis. Version conflict in cryptography internal. Now, the alternate way to do it is just to make that reference, and then it's fine, but I don't want to make that reference. Because once I do this one, it's totally okay, but I don't want to get all of ASP.NET Core App inside my core project. Don't like it, it's not pretty. We're going to have to figure out why that's giving us that issue and fix it. But for now, we're going to leave it like that. Just to get rid of the error and move on. Okay, so now that that's running, we need to get access to a new migration. Adding game view model structure and automapper. Okay, so what I do whenever I'm adding a new migration to anything in Entity Framework is I do a migration and I call that migration test. The reason I call it test is that I don't want to save it the first time. What I want to do is I want to see what it makes and I want to delete it. And I know that if I call it test, I'll spot it immediately and be like, whoa, I don't want to commit that. Okay, so what did it do? It added user ID to the game reviews table. So that's a plus. Remember, we added identity user, so it has identified that I need to have a user ID column. Interestingly, it made it a string. That doesn't seem accurate. Maybe I am going to be astounded if identity user table uses that, but let's take a look. I don't know how Microsoft set that one up. I don't know what the key is on the identity table for that. Whoops, wrong project. Meant to open this one. GameTracker, it's right here, tables, and then users. Here we go. No, I'm not worried about showing this on stream. Let's see. Okay, so I do have some records in here, so we are using it. ID, nvarchar 450. That's so weird. Huh. I guess they didn't make it an identity column, they just made it a string. So probably there is some seam that they have created for us to customize things so that we can actually modify how those user IDs are generated. That would be my assumption. But either way, I just wanted to take a look at that, because it's a weird one. For now, for testability, I'm going to allow this to be nullable, which means you don't have to have the associated user, though we do want it every time. Create index, so it is recognizing that we probably want to have an index on that foreign key, adding it. And then foreign key on the ASP.NET users table that it is setting up, that's matching the ID column with the game reviews user ID column. So perfect, it figured out exactly what we wanted. So now I'm going to hop over here, right click, discard all of these changes. Boom, they are gone. And why did you discard them, you say? Well, you remember how I named it test? Now I want to get the real name. So instead of the word test, adding user foreign key. Have I tried VS IntelliCode? Yes, I have IntelliCode installed on here as well, Mr. Whittle. I think that they both work pretty well. They do mostly different things. I have debated turning off ReSharper and trying some other stuff. We have actually used CodeRush here on the channel, and I do like a lot of what CodeRush does. I like a lot of what ReSharper does. I like what IntelliCode does. There are a lot of tools that are very useful for programmers. Quiet Challenger. No, this is our GameTracker. It is one of our long-running projects that we've had. We've kept it mostly on the back burner, but I did want to take the time to work on it a little bit today, because I do want to get this a little further. There is a guest who I've been holding off on bringing onto the stream until I got GameTracker far enough along. He works for a company that does that builds tools for doing machine learning, and I would love to have him on the stream so we could do some fun machine learning stuff together. He is another very passionate developer that is also a gamer and things like that, and so I think he will be very fun to have on the channel, and I think that we can make some interesting stuff. So essentially the machine learning piece that we want to build into GameTracker, because you might be wondering, like, machine learning, what do you want to do with our GameTracker and machine learning? Well, you might notice I'm focusing on the reviews. So what we want to do is have it so that a user can put in some data about what they think about different games, and then we want to make recommendations of what other games we think they might like. So, for example, if you like games that have worker placement and drafting mechanics, we might try to find you other games that have worker placement and drafting mechanics. And we can pull the data to do this off of BoardGameGeek. So that has actually been on our backlog here on the channel for quite a while, and I want to actually get us to the point where we can do that. So even if we don't get here on this stream today, I will probably take some more time on my own and continue working on our GameTracker. And if I do work on this outside of the stream, do not worry, I will review the pull request before we bring those in, so that you can all see what I do. And actually I should specify, I might merge the pull request before I do the stream, but if I do merge the pull request, we'll just go look at the closed pull request and see what changed. So I'll make sure you guys don't miss out on anything. Okay, so we have a reference to the game, we have a reference to our user, we have their rating, and we have the text that they typed in. Hannibal, we are running it should be the 2.1 SDK that we have installed. So .NET Core SDK. If you go here, download, and just grab this one, we have the .NET Core 2.1 SDK. That's the one that you should get if you do this. It's the one I'd recommend anybody starting any project to use. So just click that button, you'll get .NET Core 2.1 SDK. And if anyone in here is a beginner and I'm going too fast, just chime in chat, ask me questions, ask me to slow down, anything like that. And if you are new to C# or anything like that, I highly recommend that you take a look at, if you're a beginner, I recommend you join us on our Learn to Code streams that we do from time to time. I just linked that event there in chat, so if you take a look at that, you'll be able to see when our next ones are. You had a similar dependency conflict with SDK version. Remember correctly, I should fix it by installing. Oh, Hannibal, you might be right. There might be another SDK minor version that I could install that would get me out of the version conflict. But for now, this resolved it. That's why I didn't want to dig into it further, because I knew there was a way to resolve it, but I don't want to dig into that too far on stream, because I thought you guys liked more code. Not that I don't like digging into those kinds of problems on stream, because I do it from time to time, because it's good to see. But today I was hoping to work on this, so hence continuing on here. I'm going to delay committing that piece, and we're going to say adding user to review. Okay, continuing on. But thank you for checking into that, Hannibal. I will absolutely do that after we get past this. I think it'll be good. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is, on our model object, we have a little bit more. So I want to do for_member x dot reviewer name c dot map from src equals src dot user dot username. So there we go. And just so anyone is aware, we are going to pull these configurations out into a profile so that they're not just here inside of our startup CS. That's actually how automapper configuration works. So we're going to pull it out into that so it'll be cleaner instead of just being like shoved right in here. Seraph, you want to find programmer buddies. Do you mean you want to find pair programmers to program with you, or you just want to make friends with other programmers? And I guess my follow-up question would be, if it's the latter, do you want to have local friends that are programmers, or do you want to just make friends with other programmers on the internet? Because there are a lot of us, and the internet's full of programmer friends. So if you give me some clarification on that, I would be glad to assist. And also, welcome. And if anyone is interested in chatting with other programmers, I would recommend you join the DevChatter Discord, which I just linked there in chat. That's an invite link that will get you access to our Discord channel. So if you want to go in there, you can chat with a bunch of us. Discord is just a chat application. So if you are looking for other programmers to be friends with on the internet, welcome, hang out with us, chat here on DevChatter. We are live 4 times a week on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And you are welcome to hang out and chat with us about code for the couple of hours that we are live every day. And PDX Insomniac, welcome, hello also. You are also welcome to join our Discord, and as I mentioned, we're a very friendly community here, so seriously, feel free to chat, say hi to anybody else that's here, and you know, most of us love coding, so we would be glad to talk about it. So if you're looking for people on the internet to chat with about code, you are in the right place. Okay, so we've now automatically mapped those two pieces. I think that's what we want. I'm not an expert in personal problems, but someone in chat might be able to assist. Feel free to ask your question. If we can't assist, we'll probably tell you that we can't assist. Okay, so here's an awesome thing. This is perfect. So everybody, I want to show you this because it's an amazing thing that Entity Framework Core does. So, and ASP.NET Core and everything like that. So if you look, what actually happened here is I made a migration to our database. So that actually created some C# files that are right here. And these C# files, and welcome my code pilgrimage, thanks for following. These C# files define how you upgrade our database. So this is one of the neat things that we are actually able to do here. And thank you for the 4 biddies, code pilgrimage, much appreciated. So what we're able to get out of this is a modification to our database wrapped up in a source control commit, which is really cool. Now, we did this change to the source that modifies the database, but I never ran it. And so ASP.NET Core has noticed I didn't run it and is offering to apply the migrations. So if I click this button, it applied the migrations, so it made the changes to the database and tells me to refresh the page, which I will do, and boom, page refreshed, and we are loaded. Next cool thing that I want to point out, we have our rating and our review text here, and that is our hacked together stuff. So remember, we sort of faked that. So this is actually running as we expected. So that's really cool. So I now want to go modify the display that we have on the page so we can include some of those other fields that we put on our view model object. IX run. You want to know if you should pursue a project that has been done 100 times or try to work with someone on a project. I guess I would wonder, what are the things that you're talking about? If you're talking about like reinventing the wheel, say like how we created a chat bot here on the channel, we created a chat bot not because we wanted to like beat out everyone else's chat bots, because there are plenty of chat bots that have been written by plenty of people. We just did it because we thought it'd be fun. So with all things, as programmers, if someone's already done something, that doesn't mean you can't do it again. Just do it as fun. Because it's nice to write code every once in a while and create something, whether you plan on using it or not. And I would actually wonder, why couldn't you do both? Work on a project with someone else and do something that's already been done. So my big recommendation for anybody, I am a huge proponent of pair programming. We don't do it all the time on the stream, and part of that is because of the challenge of doing a stream and pair programming and things like that. But when I work for different organizations, I pair program every single time. I always want pair programming. The consulting firm that I worked for probably the longest that I've ever worked for a consulting firm, we literally pair programmed every single thing that we worked on. If you were writing code, you were pair programming. That was basically just the rule. It's just a good idea. Also, just a heads up to everybody, I feel like I'm almost out of my cold, so woohoo! It is pretty awesome. On Thursday, I'm hoping that I don't sound as scratchy as I do right now. And for anyone who doesn't know, we're going to keep coding. Don't worry, we're not ending here. But I do want to give a heads up that if you want to know when our streams are going to happen, because they do happen 4 times a week on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, you can actually ask our bot for a schedule and say where you live, and it will tell you. So that is what our schedule is if you lived in Miami. Thankfully, I don't live in Miami. It's way too warm there. But you could also say something like, hey, you know, I live in, Norway. So I could say schedule Norway. And apparently you can typo it and it still figures it out. So, that's Central European Standard, Central European Summertime, excuse me. Steve Leff, what gave you the impression that I was standing? Was it my walking around? Or was it the fact that I can turn all around? Which one was it that gave away that I was standing? But yes, I am standing. So, contribute to open source projects. Yes. So, IX Runman. Yeah. So, you are so self-studying as a programmer is a challenging thing. One of the recommendations I would make is contribute to open source projects. If you do want to, yeah. So, my recommendation to anybody in here who is interested in getting more engaged with the developer community, first off, all the code that we do here on the stream is out on GitHub. So if you do want to contribute to an open source project, there are tons of them out there. Plenty of libraries you could contribute to and help maintain. And it's not a scary prospect. I've contributed to a number of open source projects. In fact, we were live on a stream one time. I noticed a problem in a project, and we literally just sent them a pull request and then just continued on with the stream. So I want to let you all know that it's not a scary thing. All of you can do it. If you wanted to, we would love it if you contributed to our open source projects, but you're welcome to contribute to others as well. Yeah, Steep Left, sometimes I move more, sometimes I move less, but I always am standing during the streams. I have not done one live stream where I was sitting. So, any of these you've caught, I've always been standing. So, congratulations, I apparently fooled some of you. And the other thing I'd recommend is if anybody in here does want to engage with our community a little bit more, I do recommend that you check out our Discord. You really can actually chat with some of us and the other developers on here. There were a number of discussions yesterday, for example, about some different projects that we were working on. In fact, I'm expecting some of our mods. I know that S&B and Katrina were around earlier, but they will be back later. I fully expect them to greet people over on Discord probably in a moment. They're going to be like, oh, Brendan must have linked the Discord again because a bunch of people just joined. So that's usually what happens is the stream's happening and I usually mention Discord and then a handful of people join. So if you did already, awesome, thanks, and welcome to the Discord. And you should be able to chat with us over there. We talk about code even when the stream's not happening. You know, people aren't always around, they come and go because it is just a chat thing and we're a bit of a community, but if you do just want to chat about programming, you know, you're thinking about doing a project or something like that, that's a great place for it. And if you are interested in contributing to open source, especially if you're planning on doing one of our projects, that's a great place to ask people about it because you could say, hey, I'm interested in doing this. Say, I want to make this change to the chatbot. And I'm having trouble figuring this out. Can someone help? And someone might know how to make that connection, whether it's me or someone else. I actually don't know about that IX run. So anyway, I want to jump back over to this code here. So I want to dive back in here real quickly. So on our index CSHTML file in our project, we are currently displaying our rating, our review text, and I want to display a little bit more. I want to display the user. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this header. Whoops, I want to leave that alone. And I want to say dot review name, reviewer name, I should say. And then down here, I need to copy the cell in the table and make that also reviewer name. And so now it should actually display the label. So remember, we're using HTML helpers for this. So this one displays the name of that. So since we haven't defined any attributes for this, this literal string value is what it's going to use, but we're going to define a little bit more for that instead. And then this does a display for that, so it's going to put a little bit of HTML on here and give us the value of this object. So that is how that is going to work. Now let's jump into our hacked in code. In order to have that name in here, it's more complicated. So I can't, as far as I know, I can't just make a new identity user with all the properties we want, but maybe I can. Jimbo the Hackmaster. Let's find out what happens when I do that. So we're going to go ahead and run this. IX, in his algorithms wiki, what database we're using? We are using a SQLite database. It's MS SQL basically, but it's a SQLite database, which essentially means it's just a file that it's using. It's good for development purposes, but I wouldn't go much further than that with it. When we actually deploy this somewhere, it's going to talk to probably a SQL Azure database or something like that. We are on ASP.NET Core, and I can absolutely talk to you a little bit about the stack. So this is ASP.NET Core. It is a lightweight, cross-platform framework for building web applications. We are in C#. The view engine that we are using is called Razor Pages. It's very, very nice. It is not really designed for SPA applications, but if you are not building a SPA application, then this is the answer for you. One of the nice things about building with Razor Pages as opposed to a SPA is that you are able to get much better SEO out of Razor Pages. So if you're not doing a static website or something like that for your front-end site, maybe your front-end site really does need to have functionality on it, then you want to use something like Razor Pages because it's lightweight, fast, and still gets you the SEO benefits that you would get out of a static site that you would not get as easily out of a SPA. That's not to say you can't get those benefits out of a SPA, because you can, but crawlers from a lot of the different search engines are not as respectful of JavaScript as they have been at different times. So because it's kind of a moving target there, I recommend against people that really do need SEO to avoid having a single page application as any kind of a front-end app. Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, is this really a front-end app? And the answer is yes. And the reason why is that right now we're just building some data entry pages. However, we are going to want to be able to search the lists of games, the lists of players, and we're going to have pages that have records on them. So like who's got win records, who's got a high win percentage, all the different stats we were talking about. We are going to want to build those as actual pages that could get searched. So while we are writing this app so it could support you and your friends, we also want this to be able to support a board gaming group. So that's the idea here. The concept of Razor Pages is, so steep left. The idea of having source code the idea of having a front-end view page with a corresponding C# file and them being linked together, that is like web forms. But the clarification that I want to make is that the problems that we all had with web forms, those do not exist here. The main issues with web forms were things like creating state, so view state. The page life cycle that it used to build things, none of that exists here. This just goes in order as it happens. So that is the idea there. So we get the same concept as web forms in that you have code associated with a view directly, but without all of the state management and lifecycle management that ASP.NET had. And what that means is that you can still get all the benefits of being able to unit test, because anything inside this page model here, this page model, so my index model in this case, I can just create one of these and I could test it. That did not exist back with web forms, and that's part of the difference. This does not have dependence on those pieces, so that's one of the huge things there. Do I have any recommendations for static sites? Yes. So we actually use ym.io here on the stream. So we actually brought the creator of ym on and did some interesting things with that. There are actually a lot of great static site engines out there. The one that we chose we like because it has good customization and good seams for modules and things like that. So it's one that's really designed for developers to like it. Some of the other ones are slightly friendlier to non-developers, but this one I like because we are developers, so we're not as afraid of that and like some of the customizations that it gives us. ym.io, which I will just do that. So there's a link in chat. And then Razor Pages, it's similar to sliced bread. Nice, Ultralord, yeah. And DDNC07, yes, so we are planning on using Blazor on the stream at some point. We have not yet. For anybody who doesn't know, what DDNC was talking about is Blazor. And essentially it is, and Steep Left, yes, it is still in early development. Blazor is essentially it's like C# for the browser. And the way that it works is that browsers are now supporting the ability to actually have this code come in here. And so C# is not the only language that's coming in as, say, a replacement to JavaScript almost. So the idea is if you want to be able to have code running in the browser without a plugin, and that's the key. So don't think Silverlight or Flash where you had to install and run some external plugin. This is, it can actually go on the browser. So essentially the browser's just automatically grabbing the pieces it needs and runs C#. So that's what's really, really cool about it. If Blazor ends up picking up, that could be pretty neat. I know some people that discuss whether or not that is a problem that actually exists in the community, or whether it's a solution without a problem. So people were thinking, yeah, we really want to do this. But other people would say, why not just write JavaScript? And I will say there are a lot of developers that don't want to go learn JavaScript or don't like JavaScript. And I think Blazor is targeting them. So you could do C#. So that's part of the idea. There's also the idea that transferring data between C# and JavaScript has some intricacies that you have to deal with, that if you were going from C# to C# wouldn't be as big a deal. Now, to speak to its being early development, it is still a preview. Actually, no, it's not even a preview. I think it's called an experiment right now, which is like the most bleeding edge, this could disappear at any moment kind of thing from Microsoft. So you don't necessarily want to invest in it in like deploying your applications. That'd be a bad idea. But if you do want to try it out and play with it, it is perfect for that right now. Let's see, because I literally have no point to waste time trying to reinvent the wheel for a state transfer web app. Yeah, you saw a session about it at a tech conference. I was pretty impressed. That's awesome, DDNC. Which conference were you at? When it's a project of passion, it's really for my resume. You have an idea, you know what the website is powered by blogengine.net. A cool project later might be to bring it back to ASP.NET Core. Oh, Zultralord, I'm actually probably just going to switch it over to a static site, is the plan. Oh, Beers for Years. You want to make a simple snake or tennis game. So by tennis game, I think maybe you mean like a Pong style thing or something like that, or maybe you do mean like swinging. Yeah, it's okay, Ultralord. But for a blog, I don't want to build a blog engine. That one's been done a couple too many times for me. Oh, Tegara. Oh, hey. You know, I had actually been meaning to submit a talk to that one, but I did not. And thank you for following, by the way. So, Beers for Years, there's a couple of approaches. I don't know necessarily what languages you already know. So C++ is not the language I would recommend for that. My first question would be, are you on Windows, Mac, or Linux? And what level of programming experience do you have? Okay, so while you guys get back to me about those questions I asked you, I will continue on with this. Okay, so you're on Linux and you know the basics of Java. Okay, so you could write it in Java. You could write it in JavaScript. What I would actually recommend that I think would be a cool one, Beers for Years, if you were interested in doing this, if you want to make a simple game, and Mr. Whittle, thank you also for following. Greatly appreciate it. I assume that means that you are enjoying the stream. So Beers for Years, what I would recommend you do is look into how to make JavaScript games in the browser, and specifically using a canvas. So the canvas element in the web browser is what I would recommend you look at. So the idea is you get like full paint control of things, so you could easily make a snake game that way. The reason I recommend going that route is that you could put this out on a website and you and your friends could play it. Additionally then, if you wanted to make the game be able to... Awesome, Mr. Whittle, I appreciate it. If you wanted to make it really fun, I would love to see a multiplayer snake game. If you wanted to give it a real challenge, Beers for Years, because there is a technology that makes it quite nice called WebSockets. So here's what I'd recommend. JavaScript site using Canvas for the UI, and connect to a web server using WebSockets. And then using your WebSockets, in order to set that up, I recommend you use SignalR to actually do the communication. Now the reason for this is that point-to-point communication, you could make it so you and your friend could actually play at the same time against each other, something like that. So I think it would be really neat if you did that, because you could do a multiplayer game like that. Something simple like Pong, where you're both controlling, you know, one paddle or the other. If you wanted to do that, I would actually recommend you do ASP.NET Core and C# for the back-end server, and then do JavaScript with a canvas for the front end. I think that'd be a really fun game. And the nice thing about that approach is that we actually do Slither.io. I don't think it's that one. This is the one that's yeah, no. Yeah, I've played this. Not like, I wouldn't do that one. But yeah, similar idea, where you are connected in and both playing at the same time. So yes, you could do something Slither.io like if you wanted, but I was thinking more the tennis approach that he was talking about, where you do like a ping pong kind of thing. Steep Left. Well, it's a weird question, but I'm actually willing to answer that one. I would say minimal, because I have a kid that is less than 1, so sleeping isn't much of a thing. Yeah, a simple like multiplayer Pong game on the internet is a fun starting point for figuring out how to do multiplayer simple little games. So that's why I recommend doing the Pong one, is that it's an easier approach to get started. Okay. Jimbo the Hackmaster. So this goes in here, so that works nicely. What was the other thing? We need to know the game that they were reviewing. So let's add that one in as well, just to confirm that it works. So we're going to say, what is it? Game title. There we go. Put that there. This will be game title. Now if I go to the back end page, right here, I need to add the game title as well. So, game equals new game title equals did you notice what look at automapper. Okay, so I made my game title look at automapper, and I did this for a reason. Beers for years. No, I'm not addicted to cough drops, but I am recovering from a cold, so in order to make sure I can talk to you guys reasonably effectively, I need something just to make sure that my throat doesn't dry out, because, hey, streaming requires a lot of talking, so having a cold is not a great thing for streaming, let me tell you. Okay. Do I sleep at least 8 hours? Steve Bluff, I attempt to, but I know a lot of developers that don't. How would something like that session happen? Oh, like matchmaking for opponents in that game. That's something else that you'd want to discuss at some point. But I would start off right now by just, making a game ID and having 2 people connect in or something like that. And Thorizo, yes. So Unity is a great answer. The impression I got from Beers for Years is that he was doing this as like more of a, try and have some fun with programming and learn some languages and do the game as part of that. But yes, Thorizo is correct. If you do actually want to get into like full-on game development and do more than just like a little playing around, Unity is a fantastic answer. It's also C#, so lines up with what we do here on the stream. So you could actually leverage some of that information as well. And Unity is supposed to be very fun. I was intending to do some kind of game development on this channel at some point. However, we've gone in enough directions right now that I don't want to start something new. So regarding doing any game development on our channel here, DevChatter, as I've mentioned to other people, and I actually mentioned to someone that I was meeting with this morning, we probably won't do any until 2019. So that's actually the plan. Janisku, I haven't changed out the I have not actually gone and changed the automated action system yet. So we're going to be removing Hangfire from our bot and writing an entirely new automation system for our chatbot. That is going to be coming up probably next week is when we're going to do that one. Maybe this Saturday, one or the other. But yes, that is on the plan there, Janisku, and when we do that, the rock, paper, scissors game will be fixed. So it should be fun. Oh yeah. Okay, so IXRunM2 just mentioned something that I do want to bring up for everybody, and especially for the beginners here. The intermediate people, the advanced people, anybody that has imposter syndrome, anybody that has engaged with the developer community as a whole. I want to apologize to you on behalf of the developer community, as developers aren't all that nice all the time. You get a lot of elitist reactions about things. You'll notice I mentioned earlier in the stream that I like C# better than Java, and I feel like it's in a certain place. But I would not tell you that C# is absolutely the best language in the world. I would also not ridicule you for using another language. We all like different things, we all like different tech, and we've found success with different stuff. So if you are building cool stuff with Unity, awesome, go you. If you have built awesome things using COBOL, neat. You've also probably been programming longer than I have if you're programming stuff in COBOL still. But whatever you're doing, we want to make sure that we're actually promoting a good community. So if I ever say something that makes you feel like I gave you an elitist reaction, just yell at me about it. I don't intend it. I want this to be a welcoming community where everybody can bring up whatever they want. And by whatever they want, I mean, within reason, we're, be nice to people. Okay, so here's the thing I wanted to show you guys. So neat code right here. Check this out. Right here. I said, look at automapper. So I want to show you what we did here. This is the game title. Okay? This value came in right here. I have a game object. It has a title. Almost like game title. You see how without that curly brace in there we wrote the word game title? If we look at the mapping we defined for our automapper for this type, you'll notice we did not touch the word game title. So when automapper converted from our game review object to our game review model object, our game review view model object, it figured out that the game property with the title on it was the game title property on here. So it figured out that game.title is how it was supposed to get that. So I think that's really awesome that it figures that out. It's really neat. I love that. So if you don't use automapper and you're ever like just doing translations from object to object and you're doing the like title equals title, name equals name, foo equals foo, bar equals bar. If you're writing all that, stop. Go grab automapper or some other similar tool that does the same kind of thing. There are a couple of cases where you'll run into an issue where the mapping can't happen nicely. Cool. You run into that, write your own mapping, do it manually, it's fine. But in all the other cases where it is one of these and automapper can do it nicely, use automapper. Save yourself the time. Remember, we developers, we're efficiency experts. Someone else already wrote it. Lot easier. Sometimes you start programming game project for myself, and at a certain point in time, I lose my interest and I quit. Any suggestions? DDNC07. Suggestions for continuing on a project and actually getting it finished or getting it to a state where it's done enough to be usable. So having someone else involved is one of the ways to do that. If you work with someone else on the project, don't work on it alone. That's someone else that will occasionally be interested. So if your interest wanes a little bit, theirs may not at the same time, so they might pull you back in. And so the idea is, like, let's say like 2 weeks in, you're not as interested, but they still are. Their interest, they might be like, hey, DDNC, let's go work on this again. And you'll be like, oh, okay, yeah. I'll go work on this. Even though it's not super interesting to you, you're going to work on it because, hey, you're friends and you're working on some code together. Another way to do that is to have some purpose for the code. So if you have something you need it for, you're more likely to finish it for whatever that is. Now, that doesn't always apply with some of our just fun little projects that we're doing. But if you're just picking a project for the sake of having something to work on, because that's sometimes what we do, is we just want to be coding something because developers tend to like building things, and if the projects at your work aren't, filling that need to build cool stuff, well, do something on the side. But I recommend when you're choosing it, do something that has some date that you'd need it by, so that you sort of give yourself the motivation to finish it because you're going to use it at some point. So that would be my only recommendation there. By our nature, we developers kind of like going in every direction a lot of times. It's very common among us, just because there are too many cool things hitting us all the time, because there's the next new library. If you're a JavaScript dev, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Since this stream started, there have actually been 500 new JavaScript frameworks created, and all of you need to update all your code to these new JavaScript frameworks that have come out in this past, almost 2 hours? So hopefully you all are ready to do those upgrades, because you're totally out of date. Won't there be collisions in the future? If not, why? So these view model objects, if you're talking about collisions as in having matching view model objects, we're not worried about that because the view model objects don't really exist. They're temporary. These are coming out of our model, and we need to make sure that our model is what does not have collisions. So one of the trick with a view model object is you don't need to worry about maintaining a distinct object for these, because they're just getting created out of something else. So your relational database modeling that you do in there is actually what needs to build all the constraints. So if we were to do this, we want to build an aggregate, and that's actually what's going to have all the constraints about how everything works, and then we end up building view models to actually do the interaction. So that's the idea there. Read more about 5-minute rule. It is really useful and works. Oh, Steep left. That is a good suggestion. Okay. So, where were we? So I had just talked about the cool thing that automapper did for us and why everybody should be using it. Let's look at that page again. So we're going to take a look at the site. Not that one. Get out of here. Okay, so this is the page that we are creating. So we're saying here's the reviewer name, here's the game, here's the rating they gave, and here's the text. I think that looks reasonably nice. I think that's pretty usable. Let's adjust how it works, because we want to have some displays on this. So we may rename this view model to be the display one, or something along those lines. Display name, review text, display name, game. So game title is nice because that's very clear what that value is, but when displaying on the site, anyone is going to understand that that was game. Wait, I needed to... Oh, nope, it did update. Okay, so see that adjusting those display names gets me the adjustment here now. And the nice part is these display names are controlling how they're displayed here. I actually have not looked into it. I have not looked into Kotlin. What did you say? Think of Kotlin's new JVM language from JetBrains. Yeah, I don't know much about it. So if there's something interesting about it you want me to look at, let me know and I will take a look. Display name. Let's say reviewer. Again, the name is mildly redundant there when displaying on the page. Now, the reason why we want to have reviewer name back in the system is the reviewer is an object almost, but the reviewer's name is what we're storing there. So that indicates to us in the code that it's a string, but here on the site, that's all they need to see, right? And in fact, I could just say text or something like that. Okay. Here's the next problem that we need to solve in this display. We have hacked in here is our text. I want to write a little bit more in my review here, so we're just going to do this. There we go. So there we go. Looking at this, I think we can see pretty obviously that we're going to run into problems because we probably don't want to display the full review text here. So we have two ways we can go about this. We can hide this with JavaScript. We can hide this in some way here on the HTML side of things. Or alternately, we can restrict the amount of text that is actually in here. We've got a couple of ways we can do that. So that is one of the tasks we're going to want to get to on this one. The next thing that we're going to run into, especially since this is just kind of hacked in here, is that when we hit edit, this is suddenly going to break because that value does not exist. And you'll notice it also tried to go based on that ID, which was not there. So let's see where that edit value came from. So item.id. So I didn't set ID. So let's go ahead and do that. ID equals new GUID. So there we go. So now when I refresh this, we should actually have a crazy GUID in there, which we do. There's our GUID. And then details, we get the same thing. And you'll notice it can't find this page. It's giving us a 404 because that ID is not a valid one. It actually doesn't have him in its logo. Janiscu, yes it does. Okay. So we need this to actually be coming out of the database. So what I am going to do is go to the create page and we're going to add an entry in the database. So the create page needs some modification. So we're going to go here and it has rating review, and it's got text for that. Validation scripts partial isn't there. I have to look at why that's not working. And Blazor uses WebAssembly. That is correct, Janiscu. Okay, so I'm going to ignore that error for now and come back for it later. So we have a rating, we have text. We don't need user because we are the user. So we're not going to worry about that one just yet. We do need the game though. And Harley Q? I like it. I'm guessing that's Harlequin. Welcome, thanks for following. Okay, so when I create this, this is not what we end up wanting. So we do want this label, but an input just isn't going to work here, I don't think. It says for game, but I'm not sure what it's going to do when I do that. So I'm going to reload. We're going to see what happens. So game, and it's just expecting me to have a value. Probably it's going to want to wire that up with like an ID or something. I'm not sure what it's going to do. So that's just weird. So here's what we want to do instead. I want to create a model object. I want to adjust how the model object works on this. DKW Daft, welcome. We are working on an ASP.NET Core web application for, this is a standard data entry application that we're building. Should be kind of fun, so if you want to stick around, you are welcome. It is written in C#. We're going to add some JavaScript. We're doing some basic data entry pages right now. We're going to do some cool things with it later. So we are binding our game reviews for now. So this is the one that is bound based on that ID that comes in. So notice nowhere in here do you see anything that says look up the value based on the ID parameter. So if you notice, we're going to create this and we're going to send up the value. It's going to bind to that, and that's what we're actually going to get when it pushes this code up here. And welcome. Thank you for following, Daft DKW. So what we want to do is we want to on get create the model that it actually needs. So we need the list of games. So what I'm going to do is this. I want to make a simple model object for displaying a game selection. So let's go over to our view models. we're going to create a class, and we're going to... Oh, what? Hang on. What's the game view model? ID... Oh, that might be good enough. We're going to use a game view model. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to say underscore context dot games. We're going to we could select the objects. Okay, this is not a long-term thing, so we'll eventually need to handle this better once there are more games. Okay, so we're going to to-list this just so that we get them here. So this gets us our games, and I'm doing this more for clarity in the programming for you guys than anything else. So we're going to say games.select, and then I want to select this into our new mapping. So we're going to say mapper.map, and we want to map to the game view model. And I saw there was stuff in chat. Don't worry, I will get to that in a second. Just give me a moment to get this. Yeah, game view models. I think we're going to go with game view models, actually. And since that's going to be that type, I will var it, and I will say .toList. Okay. Is it a database with a website? Yeah, so web application here basically just means that this is a website that has C# as the backend running on the server, and it is we're just connecting to a database. The database for this project is a SQLite database. So SQLite, it is essentially, the best way to describe it is it's practically like a database file. It's very, very simple, lightweight, and fast, and you generally just use it in a development environment. Obviously, I could just run it through SQL Server running on my computer or something like that, but a SQLite database handles this well enough. And when we deploy this somewhere, it's probably going to be to Azure, and we'll just use like a SQL Azure database or something like that. and there's a SQL. Yes, so I say SQL because it's a little bit faster than saying SQL. So I know some people that have argued with me that if you start saying SQL, then you might as well just be saying squeal because it's slightly faster. So I don't know. I thought it was weird at first too. A long time ago, I used to say SQL. And the Simeon, welcome. And I apologize to anybody if I butcher your name. I try to say hi to people when they follow. But if I butcher your name, just yell at me and tell me how to pronounce it, and I'll try to get it better the next time. Names from all around the world, hard to get the name exactly the way that people want it pronounced. And thank you very much for the sub. I'm gonna guess BG Ricky. The Twitch Prime subscription, thank you very much. You please enjoy your DevChatter hype emote. So if anybody has any of those that are in here, go ahead and please spam some hype emotes in chat because we have a new sub in here. What? DevChatter hype. So I am going to store this in a property, which I don't remember the shortcut to get that one. So we're going to do that, and then I want to make this be games. So, just so you know, BG, we are going to have some new benefits for our subscribers starting here pretty soon, because Twitch is actually going to be making it so that affiliates are able to have subscriber badges as well. And I'm hoping that we can soon get to Twitch Partner. We'll see how long that takes. We will need to get our viewership up a little bit in order to be able to get there, but if we can hit that, we will definitely have more emotes and things in chat as well. So it should be a lot of fun. So we have games now, and we do this on get. So for anybody who's not familiar with how Razor Pages works in ASP.NET, the idea is that this action result on get method here works a lot like a controller action did in MVC, but this page is tied specifically to our create page that we've got inside of our game reviews folder. So the idea here is that you can do these simple little methods. These are very testable. Aren't web dependencies that you have to deal with in order to make one of these. It doesn't have all the state and other things like that we had back in web forms, but it is still tied to the page, so that is really nice. So now that we have games on here, it means on this side we can create that collection. Now I like the idea of having collections when I go to my page. I like it when the controls either just come in nicely and load and I don't notice, or if they all just came in by default, because I don't like having to, like, oh, I would use your page, but there was slowdown on the form and it's not there. So I like it when a page loads valid state to begin with, and then uses JavaScript to update it. So if it needs updates, JavaScript requests to do that, but I want my initial page to load in valid and working, so I don't need JavaScript in order for it to run. That's one of those little pet peeves that I've got, is it bugs me as a user when I'm like, I have to wait for your control? Like, why'd you show me the page if you don't work yet? This is crazy. Crazy talk. Okay. So, I want to make a select. Did we already do this elsewhere? Maybe. Select... ASP items, model dot games. So it wants this to be an IEnumerable of select list items. So I'm going to say select new select list item. Yep, that's the one. And I want to say x dot text is going to be the title, and the value is going to be the ID. You wanted that as a string, didn't it? String. Okay. Alright. I think that might work. We're not totally bound yet. So, we still have some adjustments we need to make to get this to work. But I think we might be able to get that select list to display. Okay, so here's the problem that we ran into. We need to add our mapping to automapper in order to get this to work. So, it didn't know how to convert from a game to a game view model, because the Board Game Geek title could not be set. So what we're going to do is we're going to hop back over into Startup, and we're going to define that one. So I'm going to say cfg dot create map of game to game view model. And when we do that, we're going to say for member what did I want? Board Game Geek title. And we're going to say C equals C dot ignore. So if you're wondering why I'm doing that, I basically need to tell it assert configuration is valid as a handy method to check if your automapper config is correct. DDNC07, yes. What DDNC07 is talking about is there's actually a method you can call, and I recommend people do this in an integration test because when you commit, that integration test will run on your build server, and if it ever finds that your configuration is not valid, it will fail your test, and you'll be warned about it before you go into production, which is super useful. In this case, I'm actually not sure it's going to work. Seraph, thank you for following. So I will take that to mean that you've been here for a little while and you're enjoying the stream. Because we were using a missing type mapping, I'm not sure it would have found this one for us. So yes, useful to call in addition to what we're doing now. But I'm not sure it would have gotten that one. Basically, the Board Game Geek stuff isn't translating over because we're not saving it yet. So once we add this stuff to the model, then we'll be better off, but for now, these aren't wired up. So that's why I'm just going to ignore them for now, because they're coming in after the fact. So that's actually how they work. So I'm going to go ahead and run everything from scratch again, because we need to run the startup on the website, so I did a full restart there. Create new on this, and ooh, look at that, look at that. Those are our games right there, so there's our select. Cool. Exactly the way we wanted it. Okay, we can get rid of that input that we're not using. Validation for that. Text danger, sure, that's fine. So we're going to refresh this page. So game selection, so we can pick the game. We'll make that nicer. This is just like, hard coding in a select list for us to be able to use. So more than good enough for our little example here. Our text rating needs some restrictions. So let's take a look at that model that we're using. So right now we are using a game review model, which we don't want to use because this is the actual model object we store in the database. So because of this, we are dependent only on the restrictions of the database and not the restrictions that we might want to have here. That's not to say that there's not value in having the restrictions on the on the model as well. We want those. But for now, we're just focusing on what we do for the view. So what I want to do is this. I want to create a folder of game review, game reviews. Not sure what I want that name to be. So for now, I'm just going to put it inside of the view model. Yeah, steep left. We've been going for 2 hours, 17 minutes. That's pretty good. So for anybody who is new here, our streams here on DevChatter usually run about 2 hours. Sometimes we go as long as 3. It depends on what we're working on, how far we go, and how the discussion is. So, create game review model. I think I like that one. This is what you use when you're creating one. String review text. String not string. ID whoops. Game ID. Whoops. Game ID. Quid game ID. Now that makes sense. Int rating. So from there, and they're going to send us the text, the game, and a rating. And I think that's all they send us. Because we should have their, we should figure out their username because they're logged in and we have a session with them on the server. So this is what we want here. So this needs some restrictions. What's this? We're going to say required. What is? It's not max length. It's hang on. I forget what it is. Data annotations. Well, that was weird. My cat just freaked out for some reason. Range, there's what it was. Yeah, range. Yeah, so you guys all got me covered there. Thank you. Thank you. Do we allow a 0? No, 1 through 5. Okay, this one is also required, and this has a min length of 1. And the error message will be review it's not long enough to be a review. I'm not even gonna tell him how long it has to be because it's 2 characters. And come on, if you can't get over 2 characters, you kidding me, man? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Max length of. Do we care? Do we have a max length? 1,000 characters. Error message equals you cannot be longer than not for Benny. Lorem ipsum does care. Game ID. This is also required. You have to have a game ID. I don't think we've got much of a restriction on this. What? Is the range has got to be from min GUID to max GUID? Alright, we'll leave that on there. We actually probably want to get a restriction on here that makes sure it's really one of the set, but that's hard to do here. So we'll put that on it, and let's see what we end up with if we bind to this instead. So we're going to go to our create here. We're going to change out what the bind property is. Instead of being one of those, it's going to be a create game review model. Game reviews add this. Okay, so here's where we need to convert. So what we're going to do is this. Mapper.map from that to a game review, and we're gonna send game review in. There we go. So that does work. Let's go ahead and store that in a variable. Whoops. Let's rename this to game review view model. Okay, there we go. That's a little bit nicer. So we now post this up. It's going to send us that value of this type, and we're just going to map it onto this for now. Because it doesn't have the properties we don't want them to have, it won't even be there. So we now have review text instead of review. This has game ID instead of game. And now on this end, what we actually need to do is we need to put the user on it. So our game review user equals this dot user identity. Is that enough? It's the type. I need to get to an identity user. Okay, so I'm going to ask the interwebs. Razor pages get identity user from claims principal. Currently logged in user. User manager. User manager, that's the one I want. That'll give me the one. Yeah, I think I want to grab the user manager though. So I'm going to put this on the constructor. I just was, no, maybe I don't want this. That's nasty. That's nasty. Is it in the claims? That'll give me the user ID. I'm not sure I can get away with using the user ID. Yeah, see, I can use a user manager, which will get me that. But then that's a pain to mock if I want to test this ever. Yeah, so I could do something like this, where I just grab them based on a claim value of their identifier or something like that, or grab the current user by ID, and then I can pull them out of the database, but I don't like either of those approaches. Alright. I'm going to do this for now. I'm going to put that one in there. Yeah, basically, I'd be grabbing them by the user ID based on the currently authenticated user. Get user. It's already async, nice. So get user async, and I can pass in the user. Okay, cool. Now this is going to fail. I already know it's going to fail, and it's going to fail because we're not logged in. So we need to make sure that this is a page you can only get to when you're logged in, so we're going to add an authorize attribute in order to add that restriction. Because obviously, only a logged in user could do this. Yeah, exactly. Yep, no login, so fail. You got that precisely, Janiscu, but I'd like to see it fail when I post. So it should work up until that point. So this now says game ID review text, so it looks like it's using the correct model. DDNC, see you later. Don't forget to check our schedule so you make sure that you catch our future streams, because we are streaming again on Thursday and Saturday of this week. So we stream 4 times a week. So hopefully we'll see you there. So that didn't restrict. That didn't restrict. I was hoping it would automatically get that restriction. We'll have to check that. There you go, DDNC. The currently authenticated user could be taken by... Ooh, is it? Oh, that's also a claims principle. So that's actually the same thing we had before, Steeplef. I need an identity user, not a claims principle. Which they're similar. That's what this conversion is. So this is the same type. I actually have it just off of user right on the page as well. So I'm surprised that restriction didn't come in. I'll need to look at that one. But either way, oh, see, it's yelling at me about it. So it's validating but not restricting the text box. I would have hoped that this would automatically do that, because it knows that it's a number type input, and I thought it would have given it a data range that would have been restricted automatically by the browser's input control. But I guess it didn't. This game is awesome! With 3 exclamation points because of how good it is. Maybe I should give it a 4 then. Okay, so here we go. When we do this, this should be the error we expected, but actually it looks like it's going to be our automap that's going to fail first. Then the next thing that was going to fail is our attempt to get the user. So we'll need to add this one in, because we have a handful of unmapped properties, specifically these ones that it couldn't figure out how to get. And we do need to specify some of these because it's not going to be able to wire up the game without some assistance from us, because we brought that out of the database. So this is a restriction we're going to actually have to take care of on our own, which makes me think that that is actually a good stopping point for us to take a break from this, do a little bit of discussion, so hopefully you all won't disappear immediately. But the couple of things that I want to mention for anybody who is here and wants to take a look at any of the code that we do here on stream, we do push all that out to GitHub at github.com/devchatter, so you can check this out. I will actually say if you do want to contribute to our projects, you are welcome to. We are welcome, we welcome whatever contributions you guys want to make, whether it is just taking a look at the code, trying it out, having fun with it, talking to us about it here, whether you want to tell us about an issue that you ran into. So it was mentioned earlier that an issue was created recently, so that would probably be over here. So Zoltralord created this issue for us, that is a feature request that he put in. So if you have anything you want us to do on any of our projects, you can go ahead and create issues for them and let us know. Additionally, if you wanted to tackle any of these, you could filter down to the good first issues, and these usually are issues that would be good to work on. And if you do want to work on one of these, I recommend that not only do you post that you're going to be doing it, so like go into that, make a comment, say, hey, I want to try this, but also hop over onto our Discord and talk to us there about it, because that's actually an easy way to get help while you're building it. Because you will want to pull down a copy of the code and build it and work with it. You might have questions, or you might have completed the code that you were writing, and you're like, oh yeah, I did this great thing, and then you want to send it to us, but you don't know how. And so you can talk with us about that, and we can help you out. So that's if you want to contribute there. If you want to see our old videos here on the channel, there are a couple of ways you can do that. Over here on Twitch, the videos tab will show you the videos that are stored here. Now Twitch only keeps these for so long, so you can find them here, but if they're not on this site anymore and you want to see our older videos, you want to check out our YouTube channel, which I just linked in chat. So it's youtube.com/c/devchatter, and that channel has a lot more videos than the Twitch section does here, which says it only has 27 videos. There are a lot more videos on YouTube with all of our old video content, and everyone in the description has a little link so you can jump and skip our intro and start watching immediately. So they're all pretty good and fun. In addition to that, something that I do want to mention to people, if you have any interest in learning to code, if you are a beginner or you're interested in learning C#, or you know someone who is, I highly recommend that you either attend or send that other person to our Learn to Code series here. So we're doing a series of streams where we're actually starting from scratch, teaching people how to program in C#. So if you want to see those videos, you can just check out the videos. They're here in our videos section under Learn to Code in C#. It's right up at the top, so it's easy to find. And these videos will start playing if you do that. That'll get you caught up. And then you can attend live, where you can ask questions, get involved, and there'll be other people at the same time learning how to code with you. So it's quite fun if you want to do that, and you can find the information about it on our events section. In addition, you can actually click the Remind Me button right here, and that button will actually make sure that you get reminded specifically of the Learn to Code series, not just all of the DevChatter live streams. If you want to catch the DevChatter live streams, you do what MW118 just did, and thanks for the follow. You click the follow button here on the channel. So it should appear right next to the subscribe thing, whatever it is. It doesn't appear for me because obviously I can't follow my own channel, but you should see a little heart icon that you can click to get notified when we go live. And lastly, I do want to mention that you can feel free to follow me on Twitter. I'm at Brendonius, or you can follow the DevChatter account as well. I tweet on both of those before we go live, so that's the alternate way of getting a notification if you don't want to get notified by a Twitch notification. Anything else that I need to mention? We are streaming again on Thursday, and I do want to mention that stream is going to be a fun one because we are going to have a guest. And thank you for following as well, MKSS322. On Thursday, we're going to have Chris Woodruff here on the stream with us, and he is going to be doing some pair programming with us. He's going to be up in the corner, and Chris and I are going to write some ASP.NET code together. We haven't decided which project we're working on. We know what kind of code he wants to do, but we have not decided on which of the two projects we're going to work on, because either one would qualify for what he wanted to do. So hopefully you are all able to attend on Thursday. And remember, our Thursday streams start a little bit earlier, so they start at noon my time, and I don't know your time. You should ask the bot by checking the schedule, or you can look at the Twitch panels down below, and there's also a widget there that will show you our stream schedule. With that being said, a whole bunch of people followed today, and I want to thank you all for following. We got a couple of good hosts from Code Rushed and C# Fritz, so I want to shout them out. If you don't know them, you should check them out. So C# Fritz, it's right there. There are a lot of good streams out there doing C# content, so I hope to see you all back on Thursday. And until then, oh, and BG Ricky, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub. I definitely want to mention that one, and the handful of biddies from My Code Pilgrimage. So I wanted to make sure I get thanks out to you guys as well. I know I did when the notification first came through, but I wanted to mention it again at the end. So have a great day, everybody. Happy coding, and take care of yourself. We will see you on Thursday. Bye, everyone.